Yeah, I think now we should no more wait for anybody. We can straight away start off. So for the last
Ma'am,
few classes, yes, who is this?
um, ma'am,
Your
this is
voice is not
Siddhisha.
clear. Hmm.
Um,
Bolo?
ma'am, I think the second last class.
Matlab?
Ma'am, is it clear now?
Bolo. Yeah,
Ma'am,
bolo,
is it
please.
clear now?
It is clear, bolo, abhi.
Ma'am, like the okay. Ma'am, the second last class we ended up with the family studies, and that class we ma'am told us that we need to go to the twin and adoption studies too. But I think the last class we directly went to the psychoanalytical theories
That's
and
only,
all. I think we skipped the
only, that, theek hai, that's not that important. That's the reason I keep skipping some things, because this is some notes, maybe they try to write very elaborate. None. For our purpose, few theories are sufficient for us as per syllabus and all. It's not so serious. Twin studies only, it says, monozygotic twins, dizygotic twins, whether this criminal behavior is inherited and all. And there are families who try to adopt children. In such people, what is the criminal behavior? So the criminal behavior, is he going to inherit from the biological parents, or if suppose he is in association with or gone into an adoption to a family where their adopted father and mother, if they have the criminal background, how is that going to influence the character or the behavior or the criminal behavior of the person? These are only studies, some few statistic studies they try to make, and then they said this is more of a, I mean, more than a biological kind of a thing. There is not much correlation. That's what they mean to say. They are not going to greatly influence, but if there are at the genetic level some kind of a defects or some inherent problems, maybe the ones which will enhance the aggression and all, maybe they have some influence. Otherwise, what they said is, whether it is monozygotic or dizygotic twins, they were not able to clearly establish the correlation or the relation between these two factors. That's what the twin adoption and all, I mean, they are not very important. The more important things, the notes gives a very elaborate thing on a lot of theories. But then for us, under sociological theory, a couple of theories, one by Durkheim and then Sutherland's differential association. There is another theory, MERTON's strain theory, isn't it? And then labeling theory, and then of course social control theory. We can only touch upon these things because there is a lot of other things also. I mean, we have learned enough about these theories. So in my opinion, what is required from the syllabus point of view, more than that I try to cover. But then other small little theories may not be that important. So let us now focus more on, last previous classes we have dealt more on, biological factors that influence, whether it be hormones or neurotransmitters. Then we said nervous system, autonomous nervous system. I told you how the principle of polygraph works, what parameters of autonomous system, what is homeostasis, how does a external stimuli is going to generate a kind of a guilt, thereby the person who is guilty of that particular incidents or an event, how he is going to interact, and then what kind of reactions is he going to show up. All that we try to understand in the previous classes. But then today's class, I would like to focus upon the sociological theories of criminal behavior. Now, this particular theory, as the name implies, talks more about the influence of society as a whole in shaping the character or behavior of a particular individual. So, what are all the influences that are there in the society which will mold a particular person is what is being discussed under the sociological behavior. And there are again different criminologists who try to give their own philosophy for that. In that, we have social control theories, then we have containment theories, and differential association theories. These are all different schools of thought. But then, when we say the sociological theories, the first criminologist who has to be remembered is Durkheim. Durkheim, Durkheim. So he is the one, Emily Durkheim is the one who propounded this theory of sociological factors, how are they going to influence the criminal behavior. And then we can say that he is one of the finest criminologists of his times. And then his theory is supposed to be one of the best known and one of the least understood. See, because most of it is so complex little, so people fail to understand his theory in total. But from the perspective of criminology, so it left an indelible mark in the minds of all criminology. That is the influence that the theory has got on the others. So it's very, very great, isn't it? Now, the main focus of Durkheim's theory of sociological or societal influence on criminal behavior is the concept of anomie. ANOMIE. This is all he is talking about, the concept of anomie. Now, if you try to analyze the word anomie, it implies nothing but losing the identity. That is one of the worst things that can happen to anybody, isn't it? Everybody, being a human beings, what we crave for is our own identity. See, we crave for identity. If identity is missing, then who are you? That fundamental question comes to all of us, isn't it? So losing somebody's identity, individual identity, is the worst thing that can happen to anybody, isn't it? So when you are, because being a social being, you try to associate yourself with lot of groups. One such group can be a cultural group, according to your taste and according to your needs and all. I mean, your own desires and all. You try to group with somebody, isn't it? Being gregarious in nature and all, you try to associate yourself with groups. So whenever there is a match between your thinking process and between your cultural needs and the group that they are following, if there is similarity that exists, you try to associate with such groups, isn't it? Thereby you have the identity. If you associate yourself with any particular group which has got similar kind of needs or urges, then you belong to that particular group, and then thereby you are establishing yourself in that group. So there is a concept called anomie, where it is such a situation, such a status, such a crisis, that the individual now it loses its identity. To which group does it belong? Is there any group? Because there is no association. For that individual, there is no association. So thereby he is losing his identity, individual identity. So such a situation is called the anomie, ANOMIE, losing somebody's identity, because he is not able to identify himself with any of the groups. Now, that is the basic concept. Now, this also gives you some explanation once you understand the concept of yes.
Why it happens, ma'am?
See,
What was the logic behind it?
Logic is nothing, because you are at times, though you associate yourself with some culture and all, there may be a particular point of time that you are thinking, desires are constantly, they keep on changing, isn't they? Are not static, they don't remain the same every time, isn't it? But then cultural norms or cultural melee is something which has got a constant, somewhat constant for that particular period of time. They have constant or not so dynamic kind of a cultural input is there, and maybe at one particular point of time you have a mismatch, because since you are not associated with any other groups in the process, so your association and your identity is established with only one group because you felt that there are similarities. Now over a period of time, your urges or your desires are such that they have reached such a pinnacle that you are not able to associate yourself with the cultural groups earlier you are associating with, isn't it? So this mismatch, what is there, is creating a lot of conflict in you. So you are deviating from that group, and then you don't have any other group to associate with. So there comes a kind of a chaos where you are in a state of anomie. Then you are losing its side. You are neither here nor there, isn't it? You are not able to establish yourself with the new groups, nor are you able to adjust with the existing old group. Am I clear about that?
Yes, ma'am.
There are other factors also. I'm only trying to give you a very layman kind of an explanation. Why people try to dissociate themselves from groups which earlier they were hooking on, isn't it? Now, there is a state of affair, the concept called anomie, that you don't belong to any group. You have lost your identity with the group, isn't it? Now, this is paving way for us. This particular concept of anomie paves a way for the criminologist to understand why a particular deviant behavior is getting developed. Especially when you talk of juvenile delinquency, why this kind of anomie is existing in this society. Now, criminal behavior, as you know, it grows out of contradiction, as I told you already. Now, this kind of a criminal behavior or deviant behavior or delinquent behavior, as you can call in a different ways, so it stems out or grows out of a contradiction between. Now, there are two groups. What are the contradictions? Culture of the social structure and then the means for achieving them. See, there are different means. There is a cultural structure, there is a goal for that. Now, how you reach the goal? There are different means, there are different paths, there are different methodologies, isn't it? So, basically these methods are modes of reaching the goal, and then maintaining the culture of that particular group or the social structure. There are different means. Now, it is up to you what methodology or what mode or what medium or what path are you going to choose. Is it a legitimate means or is it illegitimate means? So, option is always with you, isn't it? Now, because there is a kind of a conflict, because there is a kind of confusion, that paves way, because that any confusion, any anxiety for any normal human being, if you are under that particular tremendous stress, that leads to frustration, that leads to some kind of a way out. How will you vent out your frustrations and all? By doing, in the process, you are bound to do something wrong, isn't it? That's how the criminal behavior is taking its shape. Now, individuals dissociated from this cultural group exhibit deviant behavior. Now, why people are, though they belong to one particular cultural groups, initially they feel that their needs, their desires, their aspirations are very similar to the cultural group with which they are associating. But all of a sudden, what is happening? Why this deviant behavior being observed, as you rightly asked? Now, we can say that there has to be matching, as long as the similarities do exist. So there is a cohesion, you are able to tenaciously attach yourself to the group. But the moment this balance misses, or if there is an imbalance, in other words, now you slowly get dissociated with that particular group with which you are already associated, isn't it? There stems the criminal behavior. The more you try to dissociate, the more you move away from this group, because you don't have any, you have not developed. Though you have quit the old one culture group and you are yet to find a new cultural group to associate with. So there is in between a gap. That period, there is a gap. So in that period, you feel it is an anomie. You are neither there nor here. So that status, that situation, crisis, where a lot of stress is developed in the individual. So in order to relieve that tension or frustration, so we may err, we may do wrong things. That is where your criminal behavior comes out. So this kind of dissociation from the cultural group is what is responsible for the deviant behavior. This is one particular point that we have to understand. Now, going further into the theory details, now Durkheim again tries to give you or tries to divide the society into two categories mainly. So he is talking about a very primitive kind of a social group or a culture, and then a very organized and then organic kind of a society. So there are two extreme societies we can think of, so which he is trying to divide and give a name to it. So the more primitive kind of a society, he would like to give a name called mechanical society. Isn't it? All materialistic things do matter for them. So he calls that as a mechanical kind of a society. Now, on the other hand, extreme side, there is one more society, which is very, very advanced society, and he calls such society as organic society. There are quite different parameters which make these two societies quite different. What are those parameters based on which Durkheim is going to divide the mechanical society from that of organic? So one first thing he said already, that one is very primitive, the other one is more advanced. The one which is primitive is called the mechanical society. The one which is little advanced or more advanced compared to the mechanical, he calls it as organic. So this is very clear. Now, regarding the social group, how are they associated? Is there any association? Is there any coherence? Are the groups isolated? Are the group combined? Based on that parameter, he again says in mechanical type of societies, the social groups, if you can think of, they are quite isolated. They are quite isolated. But when it comes to organic, more advanced kind of a society, he says segments depend on each other. They are not isolated. Unlike primitive, they are dependent on for functionality, for existence. They are dependent on each other. Now, with regard to sufficiency, when we talk of mechanical kind of a society, he says that in primitive mechanical society, people are self-sufficient. People are no more dependent on each other, but rather they are self-sufficient. When it comes to organic, he says, since it is highly organized, there are different segments, and the functioning of one segment is going to depend on the functioning of the other. Since it is highly organized, so you don't see that this kind of self-sufficiency prevailing over there. You don't see. So there is a clear-cut, highly organized kind of a division of labor. That means a particular segment of people are assigned a particular job, a particular function. Their functionality is restricted to only that particular duty. That means there is a clear-cut division of labor that exists in because since it is a highly organic, highly developed kind of a society, you see this kind of a setup. So with regard to sufficiency, we say mechanical form of societies are self-sufficient, whereas the organic advanced type of societies are, there is a lot of interdependency there, there is a lot of division of labor over there. Now, when you talk of individuals, they live under identical circumstances. That means there are a lot of similarities, isn't it? The needs are similar, the wants are similar, the desires are similar. So there is absolute similarity that exists, isn't it? So the individuals live under identical situations. So that means what? They do identical work, they hold identical values, and then, so that means when everybody is doing the same thing, where is the question of division of labor over there? Where is the division of labor there? That means the whole group functions as if it is one unit because there is no division of labor. People are isolated, they are self-sufficient, isn't it? So they live under identical circumstances, they do identical works, and then they have identical values. There is little or no division of labor, and then Only few people, very few people, they have specialized functions. But for those people, the whole group as a single entity, it is functioning under identical or ideological situations. Now, what is solidarity? So, solidarity here means how are you maintaining that oneness? What is the element that is holding the entire group as a single unit? If you try to look at it, which we call as solidarity. Now, solidarity here is the uniformity of membership is the solidarity. So, how do they exhibit their solidarity? By showing the uniformity of the members which compose that particular society. They are showing the solidarity because there is uniformity in the members. So what kind of uniformity they have? So whatever culture they have, that is uniform. Whatever circumstances under which they are living is uniform. They are doing a uniformed work, that is do the identical work. And then with regard to values, they have uniformity. And with regard to the needs, they have similar. With regard to talents, they have similar talents and all. So solidarity in this particular group of primitive kind of a society called mechanical, that only thing that holds the entire group as one single unit is only uniformity. Whatever members, irrespective of the number of members that are there which compose this particular society, they are all cohesive. They are working as a unit because the only solidarity that keeps them cohesive is the uniformity of the members. I hope I am clear about this. And when it comes to
Ma'am,
yes.
Can you give an example for such a primitive society?
See, we do have, not all societies, you cannot classify now society that this is primitive society, this is organic society, this is more advanced. This is a gradual development, gradual transformation, isn't it? Gradual transformation of this group into the more advanced group. So we don't remain forever as primitive, isn't it? So what I am trying to say is no particular example can be given because there is no such idealistic society which will be only one society. It remains to be primitive forever. I can't give that kind of a thing because it is a gradual transformation of the mechanical from the mechanical to the organic. Am I clear about it? So even if you take any societies also, some degree of primitiveness is there in it. But then maybe some societies like American society, for example, let us take. So maybe some aspects, the mechanical element of the society is still retained. But then since the elements which compose the organic part of the society are more in number, we consider that society as a more developed society or more organic society. And in comparison, it is always in comparison. See, no single entity, you cannot have a demarcation saying that this society is purely mechanical, this society is purely organic. Every society will have both the elements. It is only degree that varies. To what degree, to what extent a particular state is mechanical, to what degree that same society is in progressing towards the organic state is a matter that will be decided by time, isn't it? So it is a gradual transformation. So primitive will never remain as primitive, and it's not that the advanced countries are more progressing countries like US and UK and other countries. So where all advanced sectors are only there is nothing like primitive. We can't say that. It is only degree, extent. What
So,
sectors?
ma'am, we can say that people from organic, primitive kind of culture move towards organized society.
That's what. See, mechanical is only primitive. See, there is no division of labor. Now, if there is no division of labor in this entire universe,
Yes,
so there is no
I
employer-employee. Everybody is an employee. Everybody is an employer. See, the moment you bring in, the moment you try to bring in that division of labor, that some people are rulers, some people are slaves. So that kind of a thing is that is more towards, Why only people who are being represented by the people are, they have to, their word will prevail? So it is
Ma'am,
not so in so premature kind of societies. It's not so. It is only
ma'am,
mechanical.
my question is that from mechanical people move towards the organized society.
Yeah,
Organic society.
there is a
And
gradual development. Huh.
does it happen other way around also? People from organic society, they also move towards mechanical society.
This is
Does
towards.
that also happen?
This is moving away from the. This will happen only when the universe is coming to an end and all. So that kind of a doomed state it will go into. It will go into the old eras like Stone Age and all. If people try to do that, they will be again going to like things that are happening, untoward incidents which are getting reported. Why are we talking about Abhaya case and Nirbhaya case? Why are we talking? So people, criminal behaviors are so barbaric. Nobody expects that that lady doctor will be killed in such a gruesome manner, isn't it? Unexpected of a civilian, and unexpected of a behavior of even worst criminals, bad criminals. They also have some kind of humanity in them. So people, when they are resorting to such kind of barbaric acts, criminal though criminal, but then where are we moving? Are we not moving from advanced to primitive? Don't you think so?
Yes, agreed, ma'am. But what does Durkheim says? What
Then,
is are his
then
analysis?
what he says is, when these kind of things are there, when people are quite isolated, when they are self-sufficient, when they are not depending on, that is a more primitive character. That's what he says. But then at the same time, he also argues that we cannot segregate states or countries into this is purely mechanical, this is primitive only, this is advanced. You cannot demarcate because there is a thin line. So as you said, mechanical to organic, if the society can move, we call it as development. At the same time, the reverse thing can also happen, as you rightly said. We can move away from more advanced to more primitive. When will this happen? When values are lost, when your culture is lost, when you don't stick on to the norms dictated by the society, isn't it? You have your own ways of doing things, and then you feel that you can do away with wrong things and then get away. You can go scot-free when you lose confidence in the system, isn't it? If you think that I can take power into my hands, I can take things into my power. If you have that feeling, that you are moving towards that kind of a primitive society. So what he says is, though this kind of a discrimination is there between mechanical and organic, it is a slow progress from mechanical to organic. Each state would try to move towards that direction, normal direction. There is an abnormality also in society where people move from the other side to this side. That is also possible, he says. So situation only dictates, at what times, what kind of conditions will prevail in the universe which will make otherwise well developed. See why countries are dissociating, why countries they want independent existences. See, UK and all, earlier it used to be one of the biggest forces, isn't it? So why it is been dissociated, why it has become so insignificant parts of the continent and all, it has lost its significance altogether, isn't it? So that is,
Even
earlier,
today there are three countries.
superpower Russia and all, what has happened to that now? Superpowers, where do you see? We have lost track of the such things, such words, superpower, this and that, isn't it? So once they were superpowers, once they were organic, but then slowly these internal conflicts, internal rivals, they toppling the government, and then this terrorism and other antisocial, they are responsible, isn't it? They are all responsible. The internal conflicts and all are responsible, and they by that the entire continent gets dissociated and disintegrates, and then finally you don't find any entity over there. I think I'm clear about this.
Yes, ma'am. Very clear.
So what he says is, all societies you cannot say that they are only in the primitive stage. It's only some stage they are. Either more towards organic or more towards mechanical, or how much is it 50% in some sectors it is mechanical, and another 50% of the sectors it is advanced. Like that, it is only percentage and then degree it varies, isn't it? So progress is between the mechanical and then organic. So no society, what I mean to say, is totally one only, not the other. Am I clear about this? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, what is the role of law? How does it play when it comes to mechanical? What is its role? And when it comes to organic, more advanced, what exactly is going to be the role of law? So he also tells about that with regard to the role that is being played by the law when it deals with the mechanical type of a society, and what is its role when it deals with organic type of societies. That's also is given under this particular concept of Durkheim. Now he says with regard to mechanical kind of a society, the role of the law is that it plays a role of maintaining the social solidarity, that is uniformity. So in the case of mechanical primitive kind of a society, we said solidarity can be achieved by uniform, because all the members are following the uniform code. So they try to remain as one. As long as this uniformity is not lost, they are maintaining their solidarity. So there, even with regard to mechanical societies, as far as the role of law is concerned, it is trying to maintain this social solidarity. That means it maintains the uniformity of the members. As long as the members remain uniform, so law intervention is little there, because it ensures that it is playing its proper role. So in mechanical type of societies, the role of law is only to maintain the solidarity. Am I clear about that? So when it comes to,
Yes, ma'am.
and that is what do you say, it enforces, because law always has to be enforced, isn't it? So it enforces the uniformity of the members. So that's what we talked about mechanical society. So it enforces law always. When you talk of mechanical type of society, its role is to enforce the uniformity of whom, in uniformity of the members. Now what will it say? Suppose there is if the law observes that there is some kind of a deviation from the uniformity, they are moving towards non-uniformity. Suppose if the law implementing or law enforcing people, namely the police, if they observe this, what do? They have to repress. They have to repress the condition. So the repressing is done, but any deviation from the norms of the time, isn't it? So what do? Law enforcement, or rather the role of the law with regard to the mechanical form of society is, so the solidarity is otherwise maintaining the uniformity of the members, isn't it? So when can there be solidarity being deprived of? So it will be vanished the moment uniformity is lost among its members. So what should be the role of law with regard to mechanical kind of society? So the role we can say is, it is a yardstick which enforces the uniformity. So as long as the uniformity is being maintained, so it has got its solidarity. Solidarity is maintained, status quo. Now any deviation, suppose any deviation, if it is observed, then it has to be repressed, isn't it? So any deviation from the normal behaviors or normal solidarity, if that is observed, so enforcement of law is to suppress or repress such kind of a behavior. So that is the role of law with regard to mechanical type of societies. So with regard to the organic groups, we said what is the very characteristic feature of the organic group? Lot of segments are there, isn't it? Unlike the primitive, where it's all self-sufficient, because there is a lot of dependency, because there is a highly organized structure, this is, and division of labor is prevailing there. Now it is not uniformity. it is rather diversity of functions we are talking about, isn't it? Because each one has got a specific specified function, isn't it? So then we call that kind of a society as diversity of functions, isn't it? It's not uniformity of function. It is diversity of the functions. Now, if that is the nature of organic society, now what will be the role of law there? It is trying to regulate the interactions, because since there are various groups, different segments, now there is always interaction between these groups, isn't it? Now, to maintain a very healthy kind of a relationships between intergroups, now some regulatory function is required. So this regulatory function is taken over by the law. Am I clear about the different roles of law, same law, with regard to mechanical society and with regard to the organic society? Am I clear about this?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the role of law in case of mechanical? What is the solidarity there?
The uniformity,
Huh.
ma'am.
So
Law will enforce the
when can uniformity can be? Are there any situations where uniformity may be found missing? It will happen, uniformity may not be
Yes,
there
yes,
always.
ma'am.
Huh.
Yes, that will happen.
So if
And
that
that way
happens,
the
what
person
will be
is
the role of law then? What is enforces? What is the role of these people? Police or enforcers, whatever you call. Somebody has to enforce law, isn't it? So if they have a feeling that no, we thought some uniformity is there among members and that their needs are similar, their situations are similar. Now, but we find that there is some kind of a this. Balance is missing somewhere if they have that feeling. Now, as an enforcer, what is their duty? They have to repress, they have to suppress this kind of behaviors, isn't it? So, in that process, so in order to bring back rather the uniformity, so they have to take some repressive measures, isn't it? So, that is the role of law there, because since we are talking of uniformity as the solidarity. Now, when it comes to the organic society, it's not talking about the uniformity. It talks about diversity. When can there be diversity? When there are more groups, isn't it? When there are more groups, more varied functions, not uniform functions, varied functions to different varied groups. And there are different groups, not one group, there are different groups. Now, there is constant communication that keeps happening between groups. They constantly talk to each other, they communicate to each other, isn't it? Now, there is intergroup relationship that exists always, isn't it? Now, in case of such a interrelated various groups, if they compose an organic society, the role of law here is something different when we compare it with the role of law as far as mechanical societies are concerned. Now, here it is the interactions, it regulates the interactions of various parts of the society, and it provides restitution in case of wrongful transaction. So, in order to restore back the wrong transactions or wrongdoings, no, it has to restitute what the solidarity is there. Here, the social solidarity is diversity of functions, and then the interrelationships between different segments. If that thing is missing, then they will restore that social solidarity here, that is maintaining the diversity but at the same time maintaining the interrelationship. Diversity is not the problem there. Diversity of the groups is not the problem there. But what is the problem in organic societies is that interrelationship, that interrelationship or the communication between the groups, that matters. That matters. There should be some healthy kind of a relationship that should exist between different segments, isn't it? So, if that is missing, the group is losing, the society is losing its solidarity. So, we have to maintain that particular diversity at the same time and also maintain the interrelationship between the diverse groups. So, this is what precisely the law is going to do with regard to organic. So, what we try to understand by this is, as far as the role of law is concerned, it is different When it has to deal with a mechanical type of society, its role is something different. Its only role is to enforce the uniformity, thereby maintain the solidarity there. But with regard to the organic kind of societies, where you have more division of labor, where it is more advanced, where it is the interrelationship between groups and all, that is paramount in order to maintain the diversity, at the same time maintain the communication between, healthy communications between the groups. So for that, the role here is to regulate the relationship rather than bringing in the, because there is no concept like uniformity there, because diversity is bound to be there. That is what we call organic, So the concept is different there, and so also the role of law that enforces the rule is something different in both these societies. I think we have to understand this concept very clearly. Now, can society remain mechanical? That means crimes are normal there. That is society without crime. So can we imagine any society without crime?
No.
It will be, there may be a condition. See, pathologically over control, I impose so strong kind of a restrictions on the individual that people are afraid, like Arab countries and all. Why crimes are not that rampant, or the severe punishment that in public whatever they try to do, punish the wrongdoers, they are doing it publicly, so that it is the other person, even the thought that I have to do this kind of a thing, that will not occur to the mind of the person, isn't it? So their crimes are absent not because people are all good there. That's not the meaning. When crime is not happening in a particular place or particular state or particular part of the continent, it only means that there is such a strong restriction which is pathological, which is not normal. That condition can never be called as normal condition. It's over controlling, isn't it? The society's regulations are so much controlling that nobody ventures to do any wrong thing, isn't it? It is over controlling, rather it is a pathological condition. That's what he says. So over controlling at times is also pathological, isn't it? It's not normal, it is pathological, abnormal, isn't it? Control is tolerable. So whatever control we try to put, including the society, it should be tolerable. Now over controlling always leads to pathological, or over controlling is undesirable always. Nobody wants, I want restriction, isn't it? Restriction has to be there, because everybody's behavior has to be in a controlled way. They have to, whatever is socially acceptable, we have to follow that only, that kind of a behavior. So that behavior, but given a chance, you can do whatever you like. Will I just stick on to that restriction? Because I have no restrictions now. I can do whatever I like. So more anarchy will prevail in such situations. So a tolerable control is acceptable, isn't it? But at the same time, if the control is going to be over controlling, that leads to again pathological kind of a undesirable state, isn't it? Nobody wants so much restriction. Some degree restriction control is okay, tolerable. But then if it goes beyond limit, a certain limit, then it becomes over controlling. Nobody would like to. So crimes definitely will not be there. But the crimes are not happening not because people are contented there. Everybody's needs are satisfied. That is not the condition there. People are so much afraid. They don't want to become nonconformists. They have to be coherent with the society and all. But the society is putting so many restrictions, over controlling, that nobody ventures to move away from the conformity. That nobody wants to label himself as a nonconformist, isn't it? That is the thing. So that means, do you call or do you grade such a society as a best society, where since there is no crime, that is the best society somebody can live in? Can you say that?
No.
So over controlling is not that should not be the aim of the society. There should be some controls which are tolerable controls and which can leave a feeling of deterrence in the mind of the person. Not too much control. Nobody would like to, including our own children, they don't want too much control, parental control on them, isn't it? If our children have that kind of a feeling in their mind, think about a society, isn't it? Nobody wants in this society too much overindulgence of controls and all. So that's what he also says. Then crime as normal in mechanical society, it's quite normal, but then mechanical societies, uniformity of life, uniformity of work, uniformity of belief of all the members. Now, this kind of uniformity that is being exhibited by all the members of that particular society, a common word, a beautiful word he coins, Durkheim coins, called social likeliness. He gives it as a name as social likeliness. Why is likeliness? Everybody is same. When we say like, when one is similar to the other. So the entire group is similar. So he is calling that as social likeliness. He is calling that as social likeliness. And he gives another name also for that. He says collective conscious. Social likeliness, otherwise called as collective conscious, is the name he tries to give it. So it simply means that uniformity of everything, uniformity of the members, their likes, dislikes, the way of living, the way they work, the way they have beliefs, the way they have their own convictions and all. So this is all uniform, isn't it? So such a uniformness, Durkheim is going to give a separate name for that. He calls that aspect as social likeliness, and then he also calls it as a collective consciousness. Is that clear? Now, mechanical solidarity, comes from pressure for uniformity. The solidarity there is uniformity. Now, how is it coming? Why people are doing everything in uniform fashion? There must be some pressure, isn't it? It comes out of pressure, he says, exerted against the diversity. So whenever people want to digress from the groups, there is one force acting upon, and that kind of a pressure is withholding them from going towards diversity. So the only one element that making them adhere together tenaciously is the uniformity, isn't it? So the moment somebody tries to digress, somebody wants to move away from the groups and all, so there has to be some pressure that has to be exerted, isn't it? Again, is the diversity.
Is it a social pressure or a legal?
Societal pressure only. And society also, what we said in a mechanical kind of thing, only very few people have these special functions, isn't it? So they are the ones who are going to put pressures, because they strongly believe the so-called power vested with only few, they have the feeling that they can control this uniformity, because that has to be controlled. Every aspect in the society has to be controlled. Tolerable control which is tolerable has to be exercised. So who is going to exercise this pressure? When everything is uniform, somebody has to rule. I said, even in mechanical societies, there are only specialized groups, very few groups, not all. Unlike organic, where there is a clear division of labor, here in this mechanical group, only few people have these specialized functions. So some sect of people, only few of them have this regulatory power vested with them, not all of them. So only these few, what are they doing? How the power is coming to them? They can exercise this power by bringing in some pressure. What is the pressure? What are they doing by using this pressure, building up this pressure among the members? What is that pressure? So they are trying to move away. Suppose any iota of doubt or any iota of courage, if they have to move away from the solidarity or to move away from the cultural groups. Now, they exercise their power, so-called very few people in whom the power is vested in the mechanical society. By using that power, they are putting pressure on this group. So what are this group? They are trying to move away from the groups and make themselves diversify. So that can be arrested. When can you arrest? Only when you have power. So how the power can be implemented? By bringing in some pressure, isn't it? That's where is the control. That's where is the control. That's how the group maintains the solidarity. Uniformity is achieved that way. Am I clear about that? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है. Now, see how much is the pressure that matters. See, ठीक है, you are exerting some pressure. You are doing this to arrest the diversity among the uniformity, because some sect of people are trying to move away from the solidarity by diversifying themselves. Now, since even in mechanical kind of societies also, there are few people with whom the power is vested. Now they want to exercise that power. Why are they doing that? Because their duty is to bring back the solidarity, isn't it? So those people who are trying to divert from the uniformity, they have to bring into the normalcy, or bring back to the solidarity or uniformity. So how can they achieve, since power is also there with them? So by using some kind of a pressure, bringing in pressure on this group, they are trying to bring back the normalcy. What is the normalcy in case of a mechanical society? Normalcy is solidarity. Solidarity is nothing but uniformity, nothing but collective conscious, nothing but social likeliness. Am I clear about this? So we are trying to bring back that, because if you don't bring back that, the mechanical society loses its identity, isn't it? It cannot be called as mechanical. So now, how much is the pressure? How strong is the pressure, isn't it? So in its strongest form, if we can think, strictest form, if the pressure is too much, strongest, then that is called criminal sanction. That is criminal punishments. Criminal sanctions, I mean the criminal punishment. That takes the shape of punishment. Am I clear about it? Pressure, again, range varies.
Yes.
Pressure, too much pressure, strong pressure, isn't it? Full pressure, and then mildest form in its weakest form. So there are two extremes here. Now, if it attains the form of a strongest nature, then such a pressure can be called as criminal sanction. Am I clear about this?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, it can also have a weakest form. What is the weakest form? We designate that particular form as a behavior or certain behavior which is not morally, reprehensible and merely a bad taste. So we give not the status of a criminal sanction for that, not a punishment for a crime and all. We say that morally it is a particular behavior that has to be reprehensible, isn't it? That is how we have to discriminate. So not all pressures are to the extent of becoming criminal sanctions, and not every time the group is that very few who have the power, they are exercising its power or the pressure in its strongest form, where we are calling that as a punishment. But there are weak variations of the pressure also. In the weakest forms also, they can also be exercised, isn't it? So when can they use this weakest form of pressure? When people are morally little going away, which is correctable, reprehensible. And then if it is only a little bad taste and all, in order to bring them back, so we use only sparing amount of in terms of amount, if you say, very limited kind of a pressure in the weakest form can be utilized. So this is what we need to understand. So the endeavor of any society, whether it be mechanical or whether it be your organic, the endeavor of the law is to bring back the solidarity, isn't it? Bring back the solidarity. Maybe in mechanical it is one kind, in organic it is another kind. Now there are people in advanced kind of societies like organic, it is more organized, more in numbers, groups are varied, diversification is there, division of labor is there, isn't it? Now, Even in mechanical forms also, the power is vested with only few people. Specialized functions are vested with them. And in either societies, there is a tendency by one sect of group to move away from the solidarity, isn't it? They move away because not all people are alike, you know. They are not alike every time. There may be some diversities among groups. You know, in case of mechanical societies, when people try to move away from solidarity or move away from uniformity, so the sect of people with whom the power is vested, they try to control the situations. So how do they do? By bringing in some pressure. So pressure can range. It need not be always in its strongest forms. So at times that is warranted. You may have to use pressure in its strongest form, that is required. But not always. In certain occasions it has to be used in its strongest form. If it is a crime, very serious kind of a crime, if it is a punishment, then we call such strongest forms as criminal sanctions, criminal punishments. So it may be only a moral thing, a bad character which has to be corrected. So we don't give criminal sanctions for that. We say that pressure is existing there as a control measure in its weakest form. Am I clear about this?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you want to remain as a member in any particular society, either mechanical or societal, there has to be sacrifice, some amount of sacrifice which has to be continuous, perpetual, I mean continuous, and then little costly. So if I am sacrificing, it is not out of fashion and love I do that. It is with a cost, isn't it? Costly for me. So when I have as an individual or as a member of one particular group, so I have to constantly and that is perpetually, I have to sacrifice my own demands, my own deeds, isn't it? Now in the process, what is that I am getting? To what price I am retaining my membership? I need to sacrifice certain things, isn't it? For the demands of the society, collective conscious, there are some demands kept by the collective conscious, which is otherwise called as the solidarity, which is otherwise called as the social likeliness, isn't it? So there is constant demands by these the collective conscious, isn't it? But then as an individual, I need to, because if I want to be a member, still remain as a member of that society, I need to sacrifice. And this sacrifice is not once. It has to be perpetual. As long as I want to remain as a member of that particular society, whether I like it or not, because of the pressure of the group or the pressure of the so-called ruling people of that particular society, I need to sacrifice certain things. And they are costly for me. And why are they costly? Because I am paying this sacrifice as a price to maintain my membership there, because my interest is to remain as a member there. I don't want myself to be in a state of anomie, isn't it? I want to remain myself, retain my identity by sticking on to one group or the other. The more similar liking I have towards one particular group, the more association will be there for me with that group, isn't it? So there is a price which I need to pay. If I have to remain as a member of a particular group, I need to pay a price, because I want to be a member. I still want to be a member in that particular group. So though it is costly, though it is a kind of a sacrifice I am making this as a price. I am paying this as a price. Why am I paying that as a price? Because I want to remain as a member of that society. Am I clear about this concept of paying price and all for a membership and all? Because this is
Yes,
a little philosophical and requires a little concentration to understand this particular concept of initially only the very first paragraph it says it is beautiful, but then for people to understand it is difficult. But it is one of the finest criminologists who propounded the sociological theories and all. So Am I clear about this?
Yes, ma'am, his concepts are
Yes,
quite
ma'am, it
clear.
is clear.
Huh. See, not all people, only certain people, but then they are significant in number. Though they are minuscule, but they are certainly significant. Significant. That means their behavior is going to make a little mark. So they are significant people, certain people. So not all of them will not be able to fulfill this, isn't it? Certain people will not be able to fulfill that. If there is larger identifiable group, if certain people, if that figure is larger enough and a significant figure or identifiable group, then what will happen? That means, why are we saying that though small but identifiable, larger enough to become identifiable? Because they are the ones who are not able to fulfill these things, maintain the solidarity or whatever. They are the ones, you know. But then when you compare this smaller portion of the people vis-a-vis the larger mass. So what is the larger mass? Larger mass are the ones who are going to fulfill 100% the demands of the cultural conscious. Whatever solidarity demands are there, larger mass are definitely are going to fulfill these demands. Isn't it? So, if a kind of a drift is there between these two, smaller group who are not able to fulfill this and larger group which are able to fulfill this, isn't it? So what is that they are able to fulfill? The demands, constant demands by the social likeliness, which we are otherwise calling as a solidarity. Am I clear about this? Now, so these are the people who feel they are morally superior. Why are they feeling? Why are they feeling that way? Why they feel that they are morally superior? Because they feel that whatever demands that are put forth by this cultural conscious or otherwise called social likeliness or otherwise called solidarity, we are to a greater extent able to fulfill these things. Whatever that solidarity demands, we are able to fulfill. So they feel satisfied and they feel that we are superior. We are more morally, because whatever moral concept that are demands that are given by the society, which we are calling as solidarity, are being fulfilled. We are 100% following that. So when compared to people, a small sect but still identifiable people, they are not able to fulfill. So they are inferior morally. So this is the distinction that they are making. So larger people, larger mass, those who fulfill the demands of the collective conscious, they feel superior. But at the same time, their opinion about this small sect of people who are not able to fulfill the demand, they are saying they are morally inferior. Isn't it? This rift is happening between larger masses and few certain people who are not able to do these kind of things. So, this identification between good and righteousness and smaller groups which are morally inferior rather fail to fulfill, we are calling them as transgressors. Now, this kind of sense of superiority, the moment the larger mass feel that we are superior, morally superior. Why are we morally superior? So, majority of the time, most of the time, whatever demands that are put on us by way of restrictions, by way of demands of the cultural, the collective society, collective conscious, we are 100% able to fulfill that. So, that way we are morally superior. So, when compared to the people who are not able to fulfill at all, though they are only small portion, so that portion we call them as morally inferior because they are not able to meet. The morals and all they are not able to follow. That means they are inferior morally. That's the distinction they are making. But then why are we bothered about superiority or inferiority and how does it matter for us? How are we bothered as a society at large? Only this sense of superiority by the masses, large masses, is the source, primary source, he says. It is the primary source for social solidarity, sense of superiority. Now, criminals naturally are inferior in that case, isn't it? They are as identified by the society. Who has to say who is criminal, who is not? It is only the members of the society, isn't it? If they are large in number and if they are fulfilling the demands of the cultural conscious, they themselves declare as we are morally superior. That means there are other people who are morally inferior also. So morally inferior people are always designated as criminals, isn't it? Because they are not following any rules, rhymes which are kept by the collective conscious, isn't it? So allows the rest of society to feel superior. So only when they label somebody as inferior, they can show their superiority. And there is a right for them. They are righteous people, good people. Why? Whatever demands are given to them, they are fulfilling that. Whatever restrictions, moral restrictions are put on them, whatever moral ethics are put on them, they are fulfilling that. They are following ritually all that. So they feel that we are superior. And other set of people who are small though in number, but then yet they are not following that morals and all. So they are inferior. So this sense of inferiority is, the superiority is bringing in the solidarity. Is this point very clear? Or more confusing?
No, ma'am, it is clear, ma'am.
No, I am getting only one or two answers, but rest of them, whether they are there, connected, disconnected, doing other work, absolutely I have no idea. But as I keep on saying that, online classes are very, very difficult to handle because there is no eye contact. I can't see your faces even. And suppose if I ask them to put the cameras on, put your video on, bandwidth is again a problem. As such, internet is a big issue. See, you have to just understand these issues and then in your own good. So whether I reach you or not, I get my salary. Please understand that. You are the sufferers. If you don't understand a particular concept and if you are not vocal, you are the sufferers. Because you are the ones who are going to write the exam, isn't it? If some concept is not clear, if you are stuck at one point, please be vocal. Please speak out so that I can understand what is going on in your mind. I cannot deep dive into the conscious and understand whether something is comprehensible or otherwise, isn't it? Please understand this point. So thinking that if there are no other these things, will the concept of punishment of criminals and all, I think because this is a little important concept from examination point of view, also from the all criminological theories point of view also, this is the most little difficult and little abstract and difficult to understand. So that is the reason, though I thought I'll cover 2-3 things, I am not able to cover even one. So one more angle to that called punishment is still left over. Yes.
Ma'am, has Durkheim said something about these inferior set of people that they have a choice to move to the other society?
See, the inferiority superior, they are not feeling, this is the group, larger group, which is labeling them as one.
Yeah, leading group is considers them to be a superior.
Why that they are feeling? Because they are following whatever demands, because collective conscious is one.
I understand that. Others are not fulfilling those demands.
And rather they are adopting some of the illegal which is not approved. Not only fulfilling the demand, they are going into ways which are unapproved, not approved by the solidarity or the collective conscious.
They are moving towards criminal behavior.
That is what is the criminal behavior. That's what I am saying.
Yeah, that's right.
They are moving away from the norms, isn't it? The more severe form it takes, we call such a behavior as criminal behavior, isn't it? So what Durkheim says is the punishment is punishing the criminal is the only way. If you want to bring back the sect of people who are inferior to superior, only way is you punish them. Bring back them to the normalcy. That can be achieved only through punishment. That's what he says. Maybe that the concept of punishment of criminals we'll talk about in the next class. Because already it is 7:10 and all. So even if it is a little late, we'll apart from Durkheim sociological factor, we'll harp upon one more school of thought and we'll wind up this particular chapter altogether. Because there are other things also, because nobody says that, no syllabus says that I have to talk about all the schools of criminal behavior. So if important ones are touched upon, that is more than sufficient. And there is only diploma, please. If somebody wants, I have already given notes. If they want more details, more theories, you are at liberty to understand all that. But then as far as
I wanted to ask that just how in the beginning of the lectures, how you used the PPTs while you were explaining, that was much easier to grasp things, because sometimes what happens, like, sometimes it's hard to, catch up things. So if you can just use the PPTs even while you're explaining.
PPT is okay. I have to take out some time because my time is so hectic. Earlier I had time, I prepared for earlier batches. This I have not prepared. I was only giving all throughout oral only, extempore kind of thing,
Yeah,
or
because some of us,
distributing.
like, we don't have any background of this law and all, right? So some of us, like, are from
I have
pure
not used any
biological
legal term
background.
here. I have not.
No, no.
I am yet to use any
Some of the
legal
topics,
time. See,
some
the
of the topics
subsequent units
it
are
could
going to
get
be pure
confusing.
law.
Even,
The,
yeah. So that is why
it
I
is all the
wanted
more
to know if you
difficult.
could.
I have never in my lecture used any term called law. If I have to say
No, no,
strict
no, no, no.
law, that is something
Maybe.
even more difficult to understand.
Yeah, no, that is why also if the, like, the PPTs that you've given, it could get like a bit confusing, for because we don't have, some of us don't have that background, right? Some of us don't have prior experience to this. So that's why only I was
I
just
can try out
hoping
because
that
the
if,
very reason why I have shared the notes, you should get the
yeah,
cue that I have not prepared the PowerPoint for that. If you want strictly the PowerPoint, it takes some more time for me to prepare and then deliver, isn't it? So I'll try to do that. I can't
if it is
promise.
possible, yes.
So that is the reason again and again, even if it means a lot of repetition, I don't mind doing that. I am doing it still. See, that is the reason. So I am not getting any responses. So I presume that you have understood. So somebody has to tell me, that if you have not understood, you have to be vocal and tell me that I have not understood this particular point. Every point I am pausing, I am asking repeatedly again and again whether you have understood the concept or not, isn't it? But you need to be vocal. That's what I am telling. So I'll prepare PowerPoint, try to give. But you have to give me some time because I have not prepared the PowerPoint for this particular theories of criminology.
That
Isn't
is
it?
fine, ma'am. When you find time, kindly do that.
I'll do that and
Yeah,
I'll share.
exactly.
I'll
That is
share.
what
Just give
my
me
point was,
some more
ma'am.
time.
Not
Just give me some more time. I'll
just
definitely do
do
that.
that.
I'll give you.
It's just that during exams, it would be easier for us to
I
prepare the
understand.
notes,
I
especially
understand.
because it's
I am with
online,
you.
right?
I am with you. I understand that. But only thing is, I am little, you know, mm, under pressure now. I am working because I have to take classes, run the show, do the administration, and the moment I come here, 5 to 6, hurriedly I should have my supper. Then because I after 7 I don't believe in taking because I am already 68. I don't take food after 7. So, whatever food I have to eat between 5 to 6 and then hurry up this class, make alternate arrangements in case power goes off, in case internet goes off. Where is time for me, you tell me? And not that
Yeah, no,
I wake up very
that is why
late in
only
the
I said, like,
morning. I
no,
wake up
just
as early
that
as
before
3:30 in the
exam.
morning, isn't it?
Ma'am,
So just
ma'am,
give
we
me
have
time.
limited
Just
enough.
give me. I'm only asking you to just give me
Yes,
time.
yes,
Before your
only I
exam,
would
I'll
find
ensure
time if
that
it's possible.
all PowerPoints will be shared, all material will be shared, all question banks will be shared. All that I'll do. Just I am only bargaining for time. That's it.
That's
Not a
fine, ma'am.
problem, ma'am.
That's understandable.
We
Thank you.
understand.
I'll give that. ठीक है, we'll
Thank you.
just wind up the meeting, today's meeting. But I am giving all promises, trying to keep up to the maximum extent possible. From your side, nobody gives me promises either. Nobody believes in keeping up the promises. So everybody, you have your own nice time to join, and whenever there is a somebody asking me to admit, I have to again ask my husband to do this job of admit. I'm operating 2 3 modes. One mobile, another laptop. So many things I am managing. So just by if you want to join the meeting also, people have reservations. They have their own nice times. I mean, who has to tell about these things? You are all mature. You are all adults. So why are you taking your own nice time to join? Did we not collectively decide upon the timings? It is based on your consensus timing only. I am sticking on to that timing 6 to 7. Otherwise, it's not at all suitable for me. Thinking that most of you are working and all, we have opted this timing. And how many of you are coming strictly on time? Even during exam also, not very many. Is it for my sake these classes are being run? It is your own good. For your own good, these are being run on your own request, of online and all. But you should also cooperate, Let something positive also come from your side before putting lot of demands on me. But anyway, it's not with a negative tone I am trying to say this, but then I am only concerned because you also try to understand my plight. So I don't say that I don't give. But I can give you, but provided some time is given to me, because it takes a lot of effort to make some PowerPoint. A lot of time goes into it. But I cannot just give the sentences, paras together and then say this is the PowerPoint. So whenever I make some PowerPoint also, it should be meaningful, isn't it? So for that, it requires some time. I need to allocate definitely some time. So definitely I'll make it before the exams, quite in advance. I'll make it and then I'll try to share it. But ask other groups also, have some kind of a communication with each other, and then let people join in time. Otherwise, a lot of time is being wasted in waiting for people, and then I am not able to complete the portion because I have to repeat each concept twice, thrice to make you understand the concepts better. So all this, please keep it in mind, and then say our endeavor as a teacher, myself, and then as a person taught. So there should be some kind of an understanding and relation, isn't it? So please do that and spread on the message that everybody should be in time. ठीक है?
Sure, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Right. Thank you so much. ఇవన్నీ పవర్ పాయింట్ చేయమంటున్నారు. తను పవర్ పాయింట్ చేయాలి తప్పదు. మాకు చాలా తలనొప్పి వచ్చేస్తుంది చర్చ ప్రతి వారి చేసిన.
ఎందుకు వస్తున్నా అర్థం కావట్లేదు.
నాకు అర్థం కావట్లేదు ఎందుకని. నేను చెప్పినా ఇంకా పవర్ పాయింట్ ఇవ్వట్లేదు, డిఫికల్ట్ లా ఎక్కడ చెప్పానమ్మా అన్నాను.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening. Happy about the PowerPoint that I somehow took time and then tried to make PowerPoints.
Yes, ma'am, it's really good.
Yes, ma'am.
Very helpful. Thank you.
But this PowerPoint is not exhaustive. This is only essence, because most of you felt that it is little verbose and all. They don't have this background. But I have not used law. This is people, it's not an excuse that we don't have law background. Law, I have not at all used any law here. But only thing is, little verbose. Whatever PDF I have provided is little verbose, too much of, complex sentences and all. Maybe in one reading we will not understand. So to make things little easy, what I thought is the summary of that entire PDF and all, I try to convert it into simple language and then simple sentences, so that people can understand. First timers, when they are reading, they can understand that, and accordingly they can write something in exams. So that is the point. But time is now 6:04. Should we start? Because I don't, slowly people, despite telling, they have their own nice time to join. Should we go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. Let's start, ma'am.
ठीक है. Now, we stopped at Durkheim's No, sociological theories, we said he is the one who exhaustively did a lot of work, and it is poorly understood, most of them, because it will difficult to understand and all. We said, though the concept wise and all, it is a very good concept, but yet because of this abstractness or maybe little too complicated to understand and all, that was the thing. And then he talked about anomy, why anomy exists in societies, and then what happens in that state of anomy, and how the law is going to control as far as the mechanical state of societies are concerned, and what will be the role of law with respect to the organic kind of societies, and why we cannot say that one particular society is completely mechanical and yet another is completely organic. We cannot draw a very clear demarcation between these two, but then we also said it's a slow progress transition from one state which is primitive to that of a called advanced state. And in a particular state also, not all segments will be in the state of organized thing, or otherwise we call it as advanced. So among the sectors or segments, some segments may still remain as mechanical. So in this transition from a primitive to what you call the advanced stage, so there are issues, isn't it? So whatever societal regulations, controls for maintaining the solidarity have to happen, it is not geared up. Society is not geared up, because it is one society, slowly you are changing into the other one. So for us to understand, for the society at large to understand this kind of a transformation, it is difficult. It will not happen all of a sudden, isn't it? It takes a lot of time. So meanwhile, what happens? Social regulations become inadequate, because whatever earlier social regulations, social control, social solidarity that used to be there with the earlier primitive type of a society, they will not be valid now, because they have to evolve a entirely new set of regulations to control the members of the society, to maintain that uniformity, or maybe to introduce another division of labor or whatever. So with the result, what is going to happen when the regulations, social regulations are not in place, or they are wanting, or they are not adequate, they are inadequate. So result is, there are going to be lot of social maladies. I mean, society is not supposed to expect these kind of changes. No, social maladies are going to happen. And one such social malady of which we are interested to know includes crime also. Crime is a very big social malady, isn't it? So when will this happen? When will we reach at this particular situation? When there is transformation that is happening, it may be one or two segments, or it may be one or two segments, or maybe the entire nation is going to change into the other kind of a society. Irrespective of that, the old social norms or old social regulations which used to be there earlier, so they are no more in vague. They will not be applicable to the new societies, isn't it? So we told you that the law that governs one society will not be the same for the other society. So in the process there is a gap, because before the society gets that capacity, adequacy, then meanwhile there is a gap, isn't it? So in that gap, lot of things are going to happen. We collectively call such happenings as social maladies. Now one such social malady of which we have to discuss the most is the crime. So we can say that state of inadequate regulation, that's what we are calling as anomy. It is a state, chaos state, where because of inadequacy of regulation on the part of the society, the entire society is becoming anomic. This is what we have studied. Now, the criminologist goes further and then says how division of labor, how industrialization, all these things have completely changed the scenario. Now, when we think of division of labor and industrialization, so society at that particular point of transformation is not in all that readiness because it has not yet acquired the new kind of regulations, and it is whatever presently existing, that kind of a regulation is not adequate to exercise that kind of a power on the existing members. So result, we said, is social malady, isn't it? Now take for examples from industrialization only. Now industrialization produces cycles of overproduction, isn't it? Followed by, when there is a demand, more production, more and more, the price is going to low down and there is an economic slowdown, isn't it? Now, if you see in such a scenario, overproduction followed by economic slowdown, you see that there is a relation that exists between producers and consumers which is being not effectively regulated. See, there is an imbalance between the producers, as far as the relations between the producers and consumers is concerned. There is an imbalance. Why there is an imbalance? If it is there, it is the duty of the society to correct it, to maintain the solidarity. But then, as I said, industrialization is a new concept, those eras. When first time industrialization was as a concept evolved, so it was the power at the disposal of the society is inadequate because it had earlier some other regulation pattern, isn't it? Now with industrialization, what is happening? There is again the division of labor. It is moving towards more organic. So whenever such a kind of division of labor is there, the producers are different, consumers are at another sector of society. Now, if society cannot exercise effectively its regulation or control over these new comings, what will happen? There is an unrest, there is strike, labor violence is there. So, the relations are getting spoiled, isn't it? The issues become unresolved, isn't it? They remain unresolved. Now, people turn, they are mere, cogs in a wheel. That means in a bigger wheel, they are only smaller circles. So, they have just reduce themselves to cogs in a wheel, isn't it? So there is a lot of unrest that is prevailing, isn't it? Now, that is the phase, that is the era where we solve more suicides. There is an incremental rate in the, sharp incremental rate in the economic growth also. So one may be wondering, we can understand when there is economic downfall, there is some meaning if there are increases in the suicide rate. But then why should it happen when there is economic growth also? What is your logic? Tell me, any one of you. Incremental in societal suicides is expected when there is economic slowdown or there is downfall in economics. That is understandable, isn't it? But when there is economic growth also, his theory says that there are also incremental increase in suicidal tendencies, suicides, more suicides represented. Now, what is the reason for that? Can anybody think of that?
The reason for suicide is not only related to the economical conditions, right? There could be other factors affecting the rates.
No, as keeping all other factors, let us say, as constant. Now, when you talk of only the suicide rate, let us say for time being, they are controlled, they are under control, keeping them as, let us say, as a control. Then when you see the growth of economy or downfall of economy vis-a-vis suicide rate, what he says is there is an incremental growth, sharp increment, even when there is economic growth also, suicide rates were reported more.
There are psychological factors, ma'am, which affect.
See, the only explanation that he tries to give, Durkheim is a great criminologist, he is ahead of his times, and what he thinks, what is the logic he tells, why economic growth is there, why still suicide rates are more. So,
there is no correlation in any country where economic growth is there and crime rate has come down. It has never come down.
No, I am talking not of the current days, those were the days where he propounded these, theories and all. So at that time, industrialization and all, you can think of those times, not the present times. Those times when industrialization happened, we expect some progress to happen, economic progress to happen, isn't it?
But that progress has happened with some selected people who were industrialists. It has
That's
not
what.
happened with the
That's
entire
that's
society.
that's
Even
there
at
the
that
point.
of
There
time.
the point. Overproduct. There are cycles. Overproduction leading to economic growth, and again more consumers, and then less price, and then economic downfall, and all. This is one cycle after the other. But the problem here, why there is an increment in rates means, suicidal rates means, our own needs, how people perceive, how they interact, interaction between groups will happen, whether they are being regulated by society or not is what matters. See, we have already discussed that when this transformation was happening, the society is not geared up, its power is ineffective, it is not been adequate. See, when the society at large, when that power, the collective conscious power is reduced, then what kind of a regulation they can make? Because whenever production is there, producers are different, because a lot of division of labor is happening there. Earlier in primitive society, there was no division of labor. Power was vested with only few people, very few, who can be counted on fingertips. Only those people with special function, they were the only ones. But when, as the society is moving towards the more advanced state, what is happening? With industrialization, there is a lot of division of labor. That means only few sectors of people are producer they are becoming. The others are only becoming consumers. Now, because there is a disproportionality between the producers, number of producers and number of consumers, so there is, and that too on top of it, society doesn't, it has not evolved itself to cope up with the change in, the social change, new social change. What is happening? Now there is unrest. Why people are, labor think that their wages are not proper, they are not adequate, they are inadequately paid, so they go on strikes, isn't it? There is violence, labor violence is there. Now this has to be curbed. They have to be, the strikes and violences have to be curbed at the at the bud stage only. Before it culminates into a very big thing, it has to be curbed, isn't it?
That is why, ma'am, labor laws and factory laws were introduced by the governments.
That particular time I am talking about. I am talking something which belong to the historian eras, So at that time, slowly these labor laws and then other labor codes and all, they have slowly come as a social change, isn't it? So to cope up, because that's what I'm saying. Society those days were not, the transformation has not happened that sudden. As it has happened in industrialization, society also has to gear up, in order to exercise that kind of a control over the members. It should also gear up with adequate powers. What we are saying is the societal powers are inadequate. They have not been given that adequacy. They have not reached to that level of adequacy. So since the powers are not there with them, or whatever powers that they have are not sufficient, inadequate, so what happens in that scenario? Now the interaction between the groups is not adequately been regulated by society. So with all this, what is happening now? The chaos and then chaos to confusion, confusion to deviant behaviors. So they are all interlinked. That's what he says. Now, there is 8 principle kind of a thing which is he modifies, and then he says that it can all be summarized, the entire thing can be summarized into 8 principles. That's what he says. So what are those principles in short? So needs and means balance. What do you mean by needs? Needs, desires or aspirations, isn't it? So all these are common for anybody. Now what matters, what is different is the means, how you achieve, whether you strike a balance between these two, your needs and means. Now needs, when you fulfill one need, is there any end to a need or a desire? Are people happy if at least most of their needs, if they are satisfied? Do you think human will be happy? Any human being will be happy?
That is why Maslow propounded the theory of needs.
That goes on. One need, one desire getting fulfilled. In that place, I will have 1,000 and odd more needs coming, replacing them, isn't it? New needs. One old need over. In that place, 101 needs are coming up. So, as you fulfill the needs, they grow in number. New needs come into their place, isn't it? So, more and more needs are there. Then, this equilibrium is not maintained. It has to be automatic. Then, man needs not, if you see the man's needs, they are dependent on, unlike animals, if you see, for animals and then for humans, there is a difference, isn't it? Most of the needs of the animals are dependent on the body, isn't it? They are dependent on the body, and if their needs are finished, if suppose a dog is feeling hungry, so if you feed it with some milk, it is happy. As far as it is concerned, it is happy. But unlike the materialistic needs of an animal, human is something different. The needs, there is no end to it because they are not dependent on the body. It is something related to mind and all, isn't it? We are intelligent people, we have more needs. One need gets over, satisfied, fulfilled. In that place, there are too many needs again occupying the brain, isn't it? It's something related to the brain, not to the just mere kind of a materialistic things, isn't it? Because our needs are unlimited, isn't it? The more one has the one need fulfilled, many more will come. Many more, instead of the person getting satisfied, more and more needs are there to be fulfilled in our mind's bank, isn't it? So one need fulfilled, two more are filling the space. Then where is the end to it? So unlimited, that is unlimited, isn't it? Needs as far as the man, unlike animals, are concerned, they are unlimited. So instead of satisfaction, if one need is fulfilled, one desire is fulfilled, I should get that satisfaction. Yes, my needs are fulfilled, my desires are fulfilled, I am satisfied. Can there be a level of satisfaction to any human being at any point of time? No. The reason is satisfaction only will stimulate, it acts as a trigger. It only stimulates but never suppresses. Fulfilling is not there at all. That is the root cause. So, regulative force here is, no, physical and moral both are there for us. Unlike animals, it has to be both physical and the moral. So, in the name of common interest, what are that? There has to be a balance, isn't it? So, there has to be balance, and then regulatory forces have to be there, isn't it? So, extreme limit is what? Extreme limit to the ambitions or the aspirations is, to reach the goal, end, to fulfill my passion and all. So, in that process, in reaching the goal, what is the means I am adopting? Is it a right path I am adopting, or is it a right means I am adopting, or is it a kind of a shortcut route which doesn't give me any sanction from the society, which doesn't give any approval, society doesn't give any kind of an approval, isn't it? This is what is, so the entire society gets disturbed now, because of this abrupt transition that is happening, and incapable society, that means the powers of society are inadequate, inefficient, society has become inefficient. So sudden rise in suicide is the cause for all that. When people are not able to cope up, members of the society, when they are not able to cope up, and there is no regulation at all. The regulation by the society has become very, very negligent, or even if it is there, it is not functioning, it has become ineffective. So all these is manifesting itself in the people get frustrated, isn't it? Because some people, they commit crimes and then they go scot-free, and some people they are caught. So naturally there is this kind of what you call imbalances that will happen. So that is the reason he says more suicides, though there is economic growth and all. Isn't it? Are you able to appreciate this?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is what he says, some 8 points or 7 points he tries to summarize the whole thing. And I think with this it's sufficient for us to say that we have covered Durkheim's, I think many more classes we have dealt on this. So only argument that Durkheim puts forth is, that society's transition will happen from mechanical to organic. The traditional source of regulation, that is earlier regulations, whatever the society was exercising on humans to control their appetite. Control appetite here we mean the desires, is the aspirations. It is breaking down. So this is leading to a state called anomy, where the individuals are no longer constrained by clear social norms and expectations. So as a result, what is happening? Individuals may pursue goals without adequate means. See, achieving or pursuing goal by per se is not a problem or not a sin, but without any adequate means is the problem, leading to deviant behavior. When they are not following the approved means, then what is the result? That will only lead to deviant behavior. That is what we call as a deviant behavior. Any illegal thing that we try to do in the process of acquiring or achieving or attaining the goal. So that is otherwise called as a deviant behavior. So including crime is in essence is the argument by the Durkheim. Now,
Ma'am, these 8 principles which you were talking about.
Which one?
You were talking about 8 principles. 8 principles.
Yeah, I am only trying to summarize because it's little verbose and all. I am only trying to summarize all those principles or all those essence of what he said under 8 principles. Only this, I said animals' desires are something different. So he gives that as a separate point and also that I have already given the exhaustive PDF. So this is all commonsensical. That is the reason why I am just trying to sum up the essence. Only the essence I am only trying to sum up. Is that okay? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
It only says, regulative forces, they play a role of moral as well as, moral needs as well as, the physical needs. That's what I told you. Animals, they only have, because they don't have that much intelligence or brain. So they get satisfied so easily because they are all materialistic. Whatever needs they want is materialistic. So with if the hunger is satisfied, it will all its needs are completed. But unlike the animals, we are vested with some intelligence, isn't it? Our needs are endless. That's what it says. Now, every moment of history, you also see that the perception is very dim. That is, moral conscious of the societies and then respective value of the different social services, isn't it? So that is one more point he says. And then the society is disturbed by painful, crisis. Then why? Because of the abrupt transition that is happening. See, in that particular momentarily faction, there is incapable exercise of influence by the society on its members because of the sudden rise. So this is all leading to the increment in the suicide rate, isn't it? That's what it says, 6th point, 7th point, all that it is. So in disasters we can understand, economic growth and all also we said why there is. So in economic disasters what is happening? There is a declassification. That means what? Suddenly it is casting certain individuals into a lower state. See, whatever status they were maintaining, because of this declassification, especially in economic disasters, what precisely is happening is, the people otherwise, those who are at a particular status, they were thrown into lower status than they were in the previous condition. So, what is happening? They must reduce their requirement when they are thrown into a status which is lower than the previous. Then that means in order to maintain, in order to go forward, what is that they are supposed to do? The only thing which is in their hands is to reduce their own requirements, restrain their own needs, and exercise or learn what is self-control, exercise more that, isn't it? So, economic disasters, what is happening, especially lower middle and all, these people, they are further declassified. That means from a status which they were enjoying already in a particular time, they will be thrown into a lower status. So, in order to cope up this, because their desires are something related to a higher status, now they are fallen to a lower status. So, for any member to adjust to this kind of a transition, what will happen? Will all of us adjust at the same pace or at the same level? It will be difficult because we have to exercise a lot of mentally we have to prepare ourselves so that all our needs are restrained. We have to have lot of self-control, isn't it? So are we able to do this? Are we conditioned to do these things? No. This takes a lot of time for us to adjust, isn't it? That's what it says. Then we have to understand what is the source of this crisis. If the source of the crisis is abrupt growth of power and wealth, what will happen? The condition of life also changes, isn't it? The standard of living also changes. It has to be regulated. And it cannot remain the same, isn't it? As it varies from social resources, it keeps on changing. Whatever scale we have earlier kept, that is now no more working, it is upset. For us to arrive at a new scale, it is taking us time. Where declassification, again to reclassify men and thing and understand the concept and all, it takes a lot of time for them, for us. So to regain that equilibrium, whatever we were enjoying, isn't it? So all these things he argues that these are responsible. These are responsible for anarchy to prevail, isn't it? Though industrialization is there, though there is economic growth, and then in both the cases where economic growth is there, downfall is there, these are all the elements, he says. I think I have sufficiently covered even this thing that 8 points and all, 8 points. Only thing is it's all repetition. The essence of all these 8 points is only this. We are not able to adjust to the transitions. And societal controls are also not geared up. We were following one kind of a scale which no more is valid now. The scale has to be changed. It takes some time. And meanwhile, to adjust to the occasions, there is what is a gap that is existing. So, meanwhile, lot of social maladies are happening. A greatest manifestation of that social malady is crime itself. That's what it precise the Durkheim's argument goes. And now we'll move on to the other theory of criminology, namely the strain theories. So what does this strain theory, what do you understand by strain theory? What is responsible, what element is responsible to create that kind of a, what you call, strain in all of us? What is the element for strain? See, there are some goals which everybody would like to achieve, isn't it? And anarchy is one thing. Durkheim tried to analyze what anarchy is all about, and then how the society is not able to regulate, isn't it? Everybody's natural appetites. Each one of us have natural appetites. That means appetite in different forms. Appetite for somebody may be only hunger, for somebody to acquire more wealth, to acquire more properties and all. It again depends individual to individual, isn't it? So it is but natural. All of us will have this kind of a tendency which is natural, isn't it? It is there in the culture itself, isn't it? It's there in the culture itself. Now, MERTON is the one criminologist who propounds this theory of strain. He proposes. One second, I am switching over to the other mode. From mobile, I am switching over to the laptop anyway. Now, Martin's strain theory, how are you going to understand? Now, it only says that there are sociological factors which are responsible for that. Now, it explains how societal pressure can lead to crime. Should there be societal pressure or should there not be societal pressure? If pressure is there, whether the pressure should be regulated or whether pressure should be at a low ebb or it should be exercised in the strongest form, it should be there. So what exactly should be the amount of pressure that has to be regulated on the members? Now, it argues that when people are unable to achieve culturally valued goals through legitimate means, they may resort to deviant behavior. This, even Durkheim also tried to propound the same kind of a thing. Goals and then means, isn't it? Whether it has to be culturally valued goals or what are the means by which you are trying to achieve that goals. What is the means? That is important. Anybody can achieve goals by shortcuts, by following illegal methods and all. And what matters is the means that you adopt to achieve that goal. So the more you deviate from the approved means, otherwise called the legitimate means, the more you are resorting to deviant behavior is what exactly precisely is the concept of strain theory. Now, what are the key points? Now, there are different goals for us. As I said, cultural goals. But cultural goals have to be attained or are to be achieved by institutionalized means. That means society as an institution has set for us some ethics, some morals. And these are the means, only legitimate means, legalized means, through which we are supposed to achieve the goal. That is what exactly is given as a key point. The cultural goals and institutionalized means. Now, identify two elements here in society. What are the two elements now? Cultural goals, as I said, these are widely shared goals such as wealth, success, power. These are all shared goals. Now, when it comes to institutionalized means, that means what do we mean? These are the legitimate ways. That means society as an institution has approved and it has disapproved certain ways, certain means, some methods. So it is for the individual. Now, it is for the individual. There are two sectors, again, people are divided into two groups. Now, one group is law-abiding. So when law-abiding people are there, there are other sect of people opposite to them who are law-breaking, isn't it? Now, how are we going to divide these people? It is the mindset. No, it is the mindset, and it is the choices of the man, individual rather. So whether he wants to achieve the cultural goal by hook or crook, by following, I want to follow shortcut, I want to become overnight rich, if that is my aim. Goals are same for anybody, for thieves or for others also, for normal people and non-criminals and criminals, it is the same goal which culture sets. But then how you achieve that, the means, institution has set in some ways, and they said these are legitimate means. The others are illegitimate means. Now, it is for the individual to choose, isn't it? Whether he goes in the path of righteousness or whether he takes the path of non-righteousness, isn't it? Or bad means. So, accordingly, he will be labeled. Accordingly, he will be treated by the society, isn't it? Now, institutionalized means they are the legitimate ways to achieve the goals, such as education, hard work. So, I don't want to do hard work. I want to become overnight rich. So I want to acquire the properties by legitimate means, by by legal methods, by occupying, illegally occupying, isn't it? So these are all illegal means. I can also achieve goals. I can also become rich. If becoming rich is the goal, that can be achieved by any means. That's what institutionalized means. So when I say institutionalized means, they are approved, legitimate means, isn't it? Now why strain is coming? When there is a mismatch between cultural goals and institutionalized means, it creates strain on individual. This is precisely what is going to happen. Now, why there is a mismatch? Because cultural goals are same, isn't it? But then to achieve those goals, society has given me some approved means which are very difficult to follow. Hard work, nobody, who will like hard work? When I am given an option, be lethargic, don't work. You be there, just stand there or sleep there. Your work will be done by somebody. Let somebody do the hard work, you enjoy life. If suppose I am given the choice, why will I prefer hard work? I will rather go by the other option, isn't it? Or if I say nobody is watching you, legal lacunae are there, lot of loopholes are there. For a case to prove in the court, lot of procedure is involved, and then everybody commits crime, and then why most of people are going scot-free? Why that can also not happen to me? I'll also follow the same path, isn't it? Because to follow a righteous, right path, it is difficult. Hardships are there, hurdles are there. So to follow a path which is, not so difficult for me, I'll choose that path, isn't it? So that is how, when there is a mismatch, naturally a kind of a stress or strain is created. Because I know that for conscious, inner heart of heart, the person who is a robber or who is a thief, also inner hearts of heart, he knows that whatever activity he is doing, whatever action he is doing, it is definitely a wrong action, isn't it? So that creates at least inner hearts of hearts, and then at the core of his mind, it creates a kind of a tension, strain, isn't it? Now, but one should know different ways how these people can respond to this strain. So all of us do, exhibit some kind of a strain, but then we should also have some means, some methods, internal methods, by which we try to cope up with this kind of crisis, isn't it? Strain, or rather relieve the strain. Strain relieving mechanisms. So there are different modes. Now the modes can be summarized as conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. So these are the 5 different kinds of ways and methods and means by which individual and it differs from individual to individual. Not all of them should follow all these ways, but then each one of them, depending upon his capabilities, his strengths, his weaknesses, he may adopt any one of these methods. This is how he has to adopt his cope up with strain or adaptation. So one by one, let us see what these things are. Now conformists we know, they try to conform, they try to abide by the rules and thereby stick to that. Individuals accept both the culture goals and the institutional. So they know that culture goals are given to us. So let us follow the golden rule. Let us follow the right path, and whatever institutional means are given to me, which they have already labeled as legitimate means, let me follow. Let me conform to the values. Rather than becoming a non-conformist, let me become a conformist. So that is one way of adopting. So this is only adjustment. Adopting means only adjustment. How each one of us or how each individuals adopt to these situations is something different. In one case we call it conformity because we feel as a sect who follow the conformity philosophy, we feel that by sticking to the societal norms and societal institutionalized method, we are safe, isn't it? So we are safe, we can still remain as members of the society. Society protects us and all. This kind of a philosophy they believe in. So that is called conformity, isn't it? When there are already good means, legitimate means, why should I not follow that and be a good citizen thereby? So that is one way of adopting, that is called conformity. Total conformity, no chaos, no confusion. Strain is minimized. When a set goal is there, when set method means is there, when a set way is there, why not I not follow? Why should I invent some other method? Why should I adopt some other means, some other illegal means, and thereby invite trouble for myself? Isn't it? That is any average man's philosophy. So that is conformity. Now innovation. Innovation, what do individuals do in this kind of adaptation? They accept the cultural goal, but what they do is but reject the institutionalized means. Isn't it? So whatever institutionalized methods or means are there, I feel that they are little difficult. So I totally reject them, I don't follow them. Now, often resorting to illegal or deviant methods. I resort to illegal and deviant methods. If a tender is there, normal process of tendering, tender has to be done and one item has to be purchased is a goal that has to be achieved. So how can I do it? In normal process as a legitimate means, as an institutionalized kind of a methodology, I can also do the tender by calling properly 3 tender process or adopting the GEM process and or GEM going to the GEM portal, seeing that whether how many vendors are there and who is the one and who is quality wise good and all. I mean, that is how any institutionalized method, if I am abiding by that, I have to follow that. But then we have seen in case of this doctor's case, what has happened. So whenever there is a tender, 20% of it should go to me. Thereby I can amass wealth and all, isn't it? So that is, you are achieving the goal. There also you are achieving the goal. But what means, by what means? It matters. You know, I have gone to an innovation method. Why should I follow an institutionalized method in which I only encounter hardship? Instead, let me innovate. Let me invent some other method. I'll achieve that shortcut in an easy way, avoiding all hardships. So this is one way of innovation, isn't it? So this is, completely moving to illegal or deviant methodology, behavior. Now ritualism is another way. So here what people do, individuals abandon the culture goals but continue to follow the institutionalized means. So whatever cultural goals are there, they do away with that. They will abandon, they discard that. That is ritualism. And whatever is there, let us remain status quo. So let us not do any kind of a thing. Whatever we have, let us be happy with it. So that's a kind of a giving. And retreatism, people will withdraw they reject both cultural goals and also means, institutional means. They withdraw from the society, isn't it? They withdraw from the society. And rebellions are opposite to retreatism, so they reject the goals and then they become a little rebellion. So that is one different modes. Each one, individuals are different and they have their own methods of adapting to the situations. Now Merton's argument is that that American society places a very strong emphasis on achieving material successes. They are advanced countries, and then they say that they are putting lot of emphasis and strong emphasis on achieving the material success is what is success all about. That's their definition. Now, but not everyone has got equal opportunities to achieve this goal, isn't it? So if everybody has got equal opportunities, each one of us or each one in the American society would have achieved the goals very successfully. But then the opportunity to achieve that goals are not equal to everybody. They are unequal, isn't it? So depending upon the opportunity, when a person gets a very good opportunity, he can achieve the goal very soon. Unlike the other person who takes a little longer, or it may not be possible at all for them, isn't it? So this kind of inequality in opportunities in achieving the material success is also one of the element which can generate a lot of strain on individual. So what is their inability? They are unable to achieve this success through legitimate means again, isn't it? So they are failure. They don't want to become failures. So somehow they have to achieve the success, isn't it? Because the society is putting lot of emphasis on achieving material success, isn't it? So they are split between duty and beauty, isn't it? So what they are supposed to do, they are not able to achieve because opportunities are limited for them if they want to adopt legitimate means. So only option left for them is only to divert themselves to the illegal means, isn't it? So as a result, what is happening? They may resort to deviant behavior to achieve their goal or to cope up with the frustration of not being able to achieve. So there are two things. One is not able to reach goal. So that interlinked with the frustration. Why am I not able to, when all others are able to achieve the goal? Why I am alone? Why I am alone not able to achieve that? That kind of a comparison comes. Once that comparison comes, then that leads to frustration. And since frustration is there, somehow I have to do it and get rid of the frustration. In the process, I may adopt a legal method because somehow I have to achieve the goal. So instead of legal, which is very difficult because I don't have any good opportunities at my disposal, so as well I adopt to the illegal means is the argument that goes on. Now, what is its implication in criminology? If you try to see, so the theory, strain theory says all about, what is the significance or what is the impact the strain has got on criminology. It only is it is emphasizing or trying to highlight the importance of societal structure. What is societal structure here? The regulation that it keeps on and then the institutionalized methods or means that are available for any individual to achieve that goal and all. So inequality is prevailing. Inequality on account of, because I am poor, I don't have those many opportunities either for education or for the studies or for a better life and all. I don't have the opportunity. So I am. That means it is a kind of inequality is getting in between. So what will happen if there is inequality? Then it suggests that crime can be result of, I said, there is a social melody that happens. Whenever there is an inequality, social melody happens. That means there is a mismatch. Where is the mismatch existing between the goals and then the means? Goals are good, but only the means are wrong. I am not able to achieve it through the right means. So I go against the institutionalized means and then go adopt a different means which is leading to a deviant behavior. So in summary, what we can say is, now it is trying to give us a kind of a framework. So what is this framework? This is all, the framework is all about understanding how a social pressure can lead to crime. If too much pressure is there, over indulgence of power, pressure if it is there, how that can culminate into crime is what we try to understand. Now, it emphasizes the importance of cultural goals. It tells about the institutionalized means and how a strain is being created, how it is arising. When these two elements are not able to come in alignment, when there is a mismatch, how strain is the outcome of that. And the theory has been influential in criminology. That means it has left a long-lasting kind of an impact on the subject of criminology. And then it is still debated many forums. It has been debated, studied at length and all. So this is the implication this strain theory has got on the criminology as a whole. So let us move on to the other theories. There are many more theories, but then I'll like to focus on the label theory. I think we'll go for that, or we can also take this differential association theory. Now Sutherland is one great criminologist of his times. He also tries to propound this theory of differential association. But From the very name you can understand that associations are different and people may prefer associations or groups with whom they can affiliate themselves, isn't it? So it is for the individual to choose the groups. So when will he choose a group, a particular group? In what aspect, based on what aspects he is going to choose the groups, isn't it? It matters. It matters. That means I prefer to join a group which follow rules, morals, ethics, good things. Then my character or my behavior or my traits are completely being governed by this group. And my identity will be established with this group. And more I associated with group, more and more character of that particular group I try to attain. Am I right? So, this is your behavior, your character, your trait is being dictated by the group with which you are going to align yourself. This is what precisely Sutherland's differential association theory all about. Now, he says differential association theory, because to become a good person or a bad person, it is the same process. Process remains the same. Procedure remains the same. But only thing is, the group is going to decide your behavior. Because the more time you try to spend with it, the more extent you try to spend with it, given enough time to spend with it, you are going to acquire, you are going to become a member of that. You are a replica of that member. So you are going to show the character of that particular group. That's it. If your group is good, you are going to acquire good characters. If your group is a gangster, a murderer, or a thieves, or a gangsters, you are going to pick up only those habits, isn't it? So this is the thing. So your character is not inborn. Your character is something not decided by the biological factor, isn't it? It is only the association with which you are aligned that matters. That means the same person, earlier let us say he is with the gangster group, he associated himself with a gangster. So he developed all bad habits and then ultimately his bad deeds are proven in the court of law and then he undergoes imprisonment and then comes out of the prison as a reformed person. Now, some good Samaritan try to help him out and he joins a good firm or some employment and then slowly he transforms himself and then he joins a company of good people who give him always good thoughts and then who give this man a good morals, ethics, and then if you follow this, your life will change, this and that. They keep on giving him all good pieces of advice. So, the same person earlier who was in the association of the gangsters, now he can turn to be good. So what is the same person, same behavior, same personality, but then what is getting changed is the association. When he is in the bad company, he becomes bad, and when he is in the good association or good company, he becomes good. This is what is Sutherland's differential association all about. So it explains how individuals learn to engage. Don't you think this is learned process? Any learned process, for good or bad, it is a process, systematic process, isn't it? It involves different steps, isn't it? So process is the same, but the groups are different. In each group, the same systematic process will be there. For a person to become slowly bad and all, the same procedures are involved. It's a systematic procedure again there also. To learn the bad tricks of trade and all, I mean, it also is a skill, some kind of a negative skill though. But it takes some procedure, it takes some process, isn't it? So what he says is process is the same, person is the same, but then what is different is the differential association with which he is aligned with, isn't it? Now, through their interactions with each other. So this is very important. The moment you associate yourself with a bad company, your interaction with that group becomes more frequent, more intense, isn't it? So with more periodicity. So the more interaction that happen between you and the group, the more you are becoming, you are acquiring the character of that group. You are becoming synonymous with the group, isn't it? Now, it argues that crime is not as a result of inherent traits. So earlier we said biological traits and then brain and then shape of face, shape of skull, this and that. So many are chromosomes. We try to say so many things. But then in contrast to all those earlier theories, Sutherland only says that, so these are only acquired. They are not inborn, they are acquired. They are acquired means they are learned. So this process of becoming criminal, acquiring the criminal character, is slowly acquired, gradually acquired as the interactions deepen. This character is ingrained, it is imbibed by the person, and hence we say it's a learned behavior. So learned behavior, why? Because of the differential groups that he is associating with. Now, so the key points in Sutherland, if we try to analyze, he says differential association is the key point there. So what does it say? What does the theory is all about? What is the emphasis there? It says that association of individuals matter. They have with others, the interaction that they do with the groups. Suppose you are engaging yourself in a criminal gang, your behavior becomes one of a criminal behavior. So the groups are going to play a lot of role in shaping your character is what differential association means. Now, learning criminal behavior, as I said, like any other learning process, the behavior is also a learned process. It's an acquired character. So what he says is a process of communication. How does he learn? Learning happens through communication, isn't it? So in that communication, what is he trying to learn? The trades of the tricks of the trade, how to commit a crime, how surreptitiously somebody has to enter the premises, how he has to go unnoticed, how to make minimum noise, how to go in the night, how to make a recce. These are all tricks of the trade, isn't it? He is learning these things through communication. As he continuously interact with these people, he tries to learn these things, isn't it, through interaction. And then what are these groups? They are very intimate groups, personally intimate groups. He interacts and then he picks up all the secrets of the trade, isn't it? All the knacks of the trade. Now, definition of favorable to crime. So there are situations which are favorable to crime and which are not so favorable as per the law. So what they try to do is they try to take loopholes out of the system, and then they know that unless until there is enough evidence as collected by the enforcers and as dictated by the courts, whether they are admissible and all, they know these loopholes. So somehow taking the loopholes out of that, and then though they are doing a thing, for lack of effective enforcement or lack of adequate evidences, this is favoring them to do crime. That's what it means, unfavorable to violating the law. So what are the definitions? So that also depends. I mean, the differential association theory also talks about this. Definitions will change for, which may be favorable to commit crime or which are not so favorable as sanctioned, as we can give the definition of crime as violation of the law. Now, as I said, frequency, duration, priority, and these are very important. So frequency, how frequent you are interacting with these groups, what is the duration, how long are you going to interact, and then what is the intensity. So these interactions, these are all the factors which will also contribute. So the likelihood means the degree to which you will be engaging with the criminal behavior for you to become a criminal. So the likelihood is more when this frequency of interaction are going to be more. The duration of the interaction, if it is for a longer time, then the propensity for you to become a criminal is more. And how intensely, how intimately, and with what group you are intimately, personal group you are interacting, that also matters. So these are some of the key points he says as far as the Sutherland's dissociation kind of a concept is concerned. I think we can stop at this point. Maybe the rest of the slides we try to have on Tuesday, because Monday happens to be a holiday. Probably Tuesday I'll try to wind up the entire theories, and then we'll move on to the other aspect, different crimes, and then how we can divide crimes into different categories and all. I think probably Tuesday class, or maybe the next coming Wednesday's class, I'll switch on to the other topic. So for today, we'll call it a day. We'll leave the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right,
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good.